Hey, Diana, do you know that Mark Lanier knows how to try a case using just AI?
Mark, that's the dumbest thing you've ever said.
Ladies and gentlemen, jurists and just curious, welcome to the Successful Barrister podcast. Here you'll learn about marketing, management, and life skills for lawyers that probably won't get you disbarred. Hosted by Marc Whitehead, a seasoned lawyer who remembers when fax machines were cutting edge, and Diana Berry, attorney, COO, and the brains behind the scenes. Together, they are the legal world's most dynamic duo since statutes met regulations. So if you're looking to build a practice, not a prison, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Successful Barrister, where legal legends are made.
And welcome to the Successful Barrister podcast, the podcast for lawyers and law firm leaders about marketing, management, and life skills that probably won't get you disbarred. I'm your host, Marc Whitehead, alongside my co-host, my number one, my COO, Diana Berry. Hey, Diana, what's up?
Not much, Mark. Are you happy?
I'm very happy.
Because we're finally back in the original
We are
format?
finally back podcasting live, not this virtual crap that we've had to do. And this may not last long. It may last for one episode until we have to do it again, but
you like this where I'm in hitting distance?
I like it when there is the possibility of physical violence between Diane and I, because I think it creates a tension, it creates a chemistry in the podcast. It just doesn't happen when we're doing it on the interweb thingy.
Okay. Well, I mean, all the HR violations aside about wanting to hit your employee.
I mean, at a minimum,
okay.
I can throw a pin and hit you.
Yes.
So there is tension in the room when there's healthy tension.
And I've been pushing you a little bit lately, so, you could erupt at any point. But today, I'm excited. We are talking about AI and what you learned at Lanier's conference.
Yes, so just background. So Mark Lanier, for those who don't know, and if you don't know, I don't know what rock you've been hiding under, but Mark Lanier, one of the most successful trial lawyers in the country, got the Biox verdict I think back in the 90s of almost $2 billion, some stupid big verdict. And it's probably had bigger verdicts since then, but he's one of the preeminent trial lawyers in the country. Right here in Houston, Texas, so we get to have him local. As a matter of fact, my mother and Mark Lanier were in the same legal fraternity together.
I never knew that, actually.
And that's how I used to get invited to his Christmas party when I was much younger.
Very cool.
Very cool. He used to have a big bang-up thing. Now he's changed that up now. So now what Mark Lanier does is every summer he has a 3-day conference, 2.5 days, big blowout here in Houston, and it has grown and grown and grown. And this past year, they said they had over 1,000 lawyers. And unlike other legal conferences, the entire 2.5 days is nothing but Mark Lanier on stage, going soup to nuts about how to try a case, how to get a multi-million-dollar verdict. And it's very popular. He doesn't hold anything back. This last year was, as he puts it, was Lanier 9.0, the 9th version of this, the 9th year he's done it. All the money raised goes to his charity in Guatemala. He didn't make a cent off of it.
Very cool.
So, very cool conference. And what I like about it, one of the problems you have when you go to conferences is everything is so disjointed because every speaker's got maybe 30 minutes, maybe 45 minutes, maybe an hour, depending. And their topics are just bouncing all over. They're disjointed. A lot of times what they say actually conflicts with one another. And with having Mark Lanier do it for 2.5 straight days, and this guy's got to be in shape. He's 65 years old, and still he looks fit as a fiddle. And to be able to do 2.5 days of just him, and he goes through from start to finish, from case prep to voir dire, opening, middle, experts, closing, jury charge, psychology, case theming, all of this. And the continuity of it is just mind-boggling, and you can learn so much, which is why there's over 1,000 lawyers out there. And one of the ways you know it's really good content is you get in the room, all the lawyers are in there. There's not people milling about in the exhibit hall or by the coffee stand or by the drinks or something. When he gets on stage, he'll go for about an hour and 15 minutes before he takes a break. Everybody is in their seat. Nobody's out milling around in the hall. And that's when you've got a good speaker. And it is a brilliant presentation. He's going to do it again this next year. There's rumors that he may not continue to do it. So I would encourage anybody who's interested. 2026 might be the last year.
Wow.
So we don't know. But here's what we're really going to focus on today is Lanier weaved throughout the entire 2.5 days how he uses AI. And he is a big believer in using AI to prepare for trial, to run an efficient law practice, to do the things that law firms do every day. And literally everything he did for the entire 2.5 days, he weaved in how he uses AI to help him be a better lawyer, to do the amazing things that he does. And he's 65, so he's not a young cat. But he's innovative, he's cutting edge, and it was just a great presentation. And he gave us a lovely paper on his thoughts about all things AI. And so that's what we're really going to focus on today. I'm not going to get too much into how to pick a jury or how to do an opening or closing statement, which is a lot about what he talked about. But what we're really going to focus on today is kind of how Lanier really thought about the use of AI and how AI can be woven into the daily fabric of how you could run your law firm.
And he talked about it specifically what you call the big three, or what maybe Lanier called the big three, in terms of which platforms to discuss or which platforms to use.
Right. So first of all, he's a big believer in Claude, and I'd never used Claude before, but he talked about the big three. First, ChatGPT, which he referred to as sort of the versatile generalist. And then Claude, the one he likes the best, the one he used the most throughout his presentation, which he calls the careful analyst. And then finally, Gemini, which he referred to as the connected researcher. Mm-hmm. So he, I think what he basically was trying to say was there's no best AI tool out there. You need to pick the AI tool based on the task. And most law firms should probably use multiple AI platforms strategically, depending on what they're trying to accomplish. Beyond these three, there's specific AI that's specific for document generation. There's for illustrations, for creating photographs, for creating PowerPoints. He didn't get into too much of that, but I know those tools are out there as well. So basically AI specific to specific tasks. And I think that's going to be a lot about what we'll talk about today is how to match up, at least in Lanier's opinion. Because I will tell you honestly, I've never used Gemini, so I don't know. But these are his thoughts, and he has really explored this topic way deeper than we have. So we're going to be regurgitating a lot of what Mark Lanier's thoughts were over his 2.5 days this past summer.
This podcast is sponsored by Marc Whitehead Associates, a national disability benefits law firm. Marc Whitehead runs a firm of over 60 dedicated people whose mission is to make a difference in the lives of our injured and disabled clients. Marc represents disabled claimants in Social Security disability, private disability insurance, and veterans disability claims in all 50 states. Marc Whitehead is double board certified in both Social Security disability law and personal injury trial law. Marc has litigated disability cases in over 40 states and counting and can help your clients too. Stop throwing your phone calls away. Call Marc Whitehead at 701-VIP-LEAD. That's 701-VIP-LEAD. Or visit our website at disabilitydenials.com. Referral fees are paid in all jurisdictions where it is permitted. Refer us your disability cases today and know that your clients will be in good hands.
And we're back. All right, Diana. So I'm going to do a deep dive into the practical uses and risks of using AI. Let's start with ChatGPT, the versatile draftsman.
That's where you started with ChatGPT. That's what the firm you used for non-legal things. We don't use ChatGPT or Claude for any legal production.
We have not yet
firm.
taken that bold step yet of using it for legal production. Putting client information in it and spitting out
or even just
documents.
putting out. Yeah, we don't ask it to draft legal things. We have said in our handbook that that's not allowed.
Yes.
So
We use it a lot for marketing.
a lot.
I use it a lot for client communication or communication with anybody for that matter. Basically, basic drafting. It's great. For example, I had a client who was not happy. And we thought, with some justification on some points, on other points, not justified. And, again, without using the client name, I just simply dictated in, client says this, we think this, I would like a professional letter making these points, telling him sorry for this, but this, and so forth. And just kind of laid out the structure. And it spit out a lovely letter, a very professional letter. And really what it was, I just didn't want to deal with it. You put things off. You don't want this. Clients that are not happy are always things that I kind of dread dealing with, and kind of having that thought partner that could actually organize my thoughts for me, and to make some cogent admissions. Hey, we're sorry, we didn't call you back fast enough. But however, blank, 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 and it got me off the hump. Just because I had a way to bounce. I literally had a thought partner with me. I had a partner there that could basically organize a bunch of random thoughts that I had that I just dictated into it.
Yep, I do think ChatGPT is a lot more. It's great at that type of task. What else do you use it for, Mark?
Well, I was going to go through what way Lanier describes it. Mm-hmm. So, because he has more experience with it than I, but the way he described it, so he kind of put it in terms of strengths, limitations, and then law firm applications. He said the strengths of ChatGPT were probably helping write demand letters, maybe helping write logical arguments in terms of briefs, pleadings. He said great for a first draft, a great outliner. He actually used it for jury selection role play. And he did, and for voir dire practice. So what he would do is he would tell the ChatGPT to assume a persona of a prospective juror, and he would lay out some parameters on what the case was about. And he goes, now ask me, I'm going to ask you questions one by one, and you give me answers as if you were this juror. And he basically practiced and word gamed out different scenarios on how best to structure a voir dire. And he actually gave a demonstration on how he did it. Now, he was using Claude, but he was basically referring back to ChatGPT at the moment. And it was really interesting. And it like you said, it's not foolproof, but it gave him some brainstorming ideas. The limitations that he described, and I think we've talked about this before, and it's certainly been in the paper, is it will hallucinate if you ask it specifics. Specifically, there's been plenty in the news about lawyers who've gotten in trouble using ChatGPT, and it hallucinated and made up fake cases.
I don't think that's specific to just ChatGPT, though, right?
Well,
I think any AI platform can hallucinate.
I would say any AI platform probably has the potential. The ones I have heard of all specifically referenced ChatGPT.
Yes.
It also, according to Lanier, it also oversimplifies nuanced issues. So it's not the greatest analyst in the world. But he came up with, a lot of law firm applications, drafting letters for one. As the example I just used, it's good at drafting letters, especially if you give it some parameters. And again, I like using the verbal function where I can dictate into it because, I can talk a lot faster, and especially when I'm just vomiting information in some random fashion, I can talk a lot faster than I can type. And that's usually one of the reasons I want to use it. I just want somebody to get this verbal vomit out of my head and then now make some sense of it and feed it back to me. That gets me over the hump. That gets me moving.
Yeah, but so I found that I like ChatGPT for very specific tasks. I like Claude AI, and we can talk about that next, obviously, but very specific tasks. Give me 10 quotes from the book if I'm getting ready for a podcast. Or one thing that I used ChatGPT. We just got done with a round of marketing director interviews, and I would feed it the resume and say, hey, what question should I ask this candidate? I know you used an AI tool, I assume it's Claude, for preparation for those interviews, but it's very good at very specific things. And I know you're not really into kind of the cons of this yet, but I have found that ChatGPT is a bit of a sycophant. We talked about that?
It will kiss your ass.
Yeah.
Anything you tell it, it'll like, great idea, Mark.
Yeah.
Why, yes, Mark, that's a great idea. I didn't think of that. It's an ass kisser.
Yeah, so I was actually telling you a little bit about this. I was asking it, I have a running chat with about my nutrition goals and my weight loss goals and all of the things. I feed it my blood test results and all of these things. And at some point, ChatGPT says to me, you are not broken. Like the not is italicized and everything. And I'm like, I don't understand why I gave you that opinion, that I needed that affirmation, but thank you. Thank you for reminding me I am not broken because my metabolism is slowing or whatever it was trying to assure me of. I asked Claude AI the same thing, and we can talk about that shortly, but it just tends to be a bit more people-pleasing, I found.
So I have heard, and I have not experimented with this, but that has been a big complaint about ChatGPT 4.0, it was an ass kisser.
Oh.
And I have heard that they tried to address that in 5.0, which just came out a few weeks ago, which a lot of people are disappointed in. I have not experimented with it yet, so I personally don't know. But I heard that was one of the things that they tried to address, because I guess the criticism of 4.0 was that it wants to please you. So so one of the ways it thinks it's pleasing you is to keep complimenting you and telling you what a good idea you just had.
It's a great question, Diana. I'm like, well, thank you. And then
constantly,
it's a wonderful
everything
thing.
is a great question,
Really
Mark. I'm so glad you asked me.
I will say, just as we finish out this part of the ChatGPT conversation, it does a very good job of suggesting a next step. It'll give you an answer, and then it says, do you want to produce a Word document that summarizes all of these questions for your interview? Well, I don't know, but it always asks you a question next.
So one of the things that a quote from Lanier was, AI doesn't replace your judgment, it replaces your blank page. And this is what really struck me, because that's exactly what I was describing earlier. I was trying to write a letter to a client, and I was just staring at a blank page, and I couldn't figure out where to begin. And I just vomited into the microphone, and it created a real page from what was otherwise just a blank page. That's I think that was the most significant quote that I wrote down. I wrote that down when he said it. So, all right, the next one, Claude. Now, I had not had any experience with Claude until I went to Lanier's conference this summer. And since he used it so extensively and praised it, and I think it was definitely his favorite, I went and bought us a little mini subscription. I bought 5 licenses for $30 a piece for the year. I guess it's for the year. So $150, and I gave one to you. I gave one to me. And then I gave the rest out to our marketing department, I think. I can't remember who else I gave
Intake, I think.
I think I gave one to Intake. Just, and the way Lanier describes it, the strengths of Claude is the careful analyst. He describes it as superior in analyzing contracts, denial letters, and expert reports. Excellent with medical record review. And built-in caution and ethical reasoning. Okay, so apparently somebody fed it some ethical parameters into the system. I don't know. Anyway, this is the way Lanier described it. So I would agree with it. I have been playing with it on my own, and so a lot of what we do are reading disability insurance contracts from the usual suspects, Unum, Hartford, Aetna, those. I won't say anything bad on a public podcast about our.
Thank you.
Yes. The people we sue quite frequently, who I'm sure have perfectly pure business motives, these contracts are 40, 50, 60 pages long frequently. And I've been experimenting with putting these contracts in with, in a sort of a closed environment with specific questions, because we want to know the same 10 questions every time we review a contract. What are the limitations? What are the parameters? What are the age ranges where the different things kick in? We have the same questions over and over again. So I'm trying to design like a custom GTP that will quickly read and analyze a policy that answers the same 10, 15, 20 questions, whatever. I'll probably keep expanding it. But basically give a quick summary of the things that we want to know, because this happens all the time. Other lawyers will send us policies, say, Mark, I know this is your field. Can you look at this policy for me real quick? Okay, well, how much time in a day do I have to look at all these random policies? And a lot of times they don't turn out to be anything. They're just basic questions. So I'm working with Claude in my spare time to try to develop a sort of a custom GTP of my own to do that for me quickly. And I think I've got it most of the way there. I'm still tweaking it. I'm still playing with it. And yet I'm not yet to the point where I trust it. I still go back and back check it. For number one, you tell it to cite its sources by page and line. So when it tells me something, now I can go back to that page and line and look, and okay, that's what it really said. And so I'm slowly building up some confidence, but I'm using Claude for this simply because Lanier told me it was the best tool for this specific type of job.
Yeah. So when you got us the Claude license, I started playing with it, and I agree. I have found that it is better at complex reasoning, detailed analysis. I love Claude for Excel spreadsheets and formulas, as well as like Salesforce formulas. So I told you once, I was so excited. Mark, because Salesforce, we use Solidify, as many of you listeners know, and it's based on the Salesforce engine. And I am not your, coding or developer type COO. That's not we decided that was not going to be my strong suit. But so I usually rely a lot on Litify support to help me with certain things within the Litify platform. And now I can create Litify formulas, or at least Claude will help me create Litify formulas that I can do in 30 minutes and get analysis. It's amazing. We were using an Excel template that had a lot of hidden cells or hidden formulas. We just couldn't figure it out. And I had Claude jumping back. I was like, okay, where is D17? What cells have D17, for example, mentioned in them? And he would be like, oh, okay, these are the cells. I mean, it was unreal how good it was at producing that type of analysis.
Right. So as Lanier stated, the limitations of Claude is it's less creative and it's slower, which I think is the trade-off because it's more analytical. You're talking about the law firm applications. Here's an application that I used it for. I wanted to create some calculators to calculate certain things for me. So this may be a little bit hard to describe in a podcast, but there's a series of grid rules that we use on Social Security disability claims. And the variables in the grid rules are age, education, past work experience, and RFC limitations, heavy, medium, light, and sedentary, which I know is beyond the scope of what we're talking about. But disability lawyers, at least out there, know what I'm talking about. And I wanted to create a calculator where I could punch in the variables and it would spit out an answer as to which of the 117, if I'm remembering correctly, the 117 grid rules that would apply depending on the variables that I punched in. Now, the whole purpose of this is I was creating a public calculator that we were going to put on our website for the public to go to so they could punch in their own variables and get an answer. Of course, this is marketing. This is all about marketing. I'm trying to create a bait piece on our website that will draw web traffic onto our website. But how do you create this calculator? I punched it into Claude and I said, Claude, I would like a calculator and I want it to do this. And here, go to these sources and go to these 117 grid rules and analyze them, and let's create a mathematical calculation. I think it's done on a spreadsheet, but it's done in such deep HTML language that I couldn't understand it. And it worked. I did it and it worked. And I even created a scenario given known values to back check it, to make sure it was properly performing. And it went through a whole gyration, and it even came up with some more scenarios. And it worked 100% of the time. I shipped it off to my webmaster, and they're putting it up on our website. They were thrilled to have it. And I did it in it took a while because I had to beta test it, but it took me about an hour and a half. So I did one of these once before. I hired a software engineer to do it, and I paid a couple of $1,000s. I did this in an hour and a half. Did it myself. Brilliant. So what are some of the other law firm applications that Lanier was talking about?
Oh, well, I think you've talked about using it in our disability insurance section. So I just like using it from my perspective, as an ops perspective.
So Lanier used it to prep cross-exam questions for insurance medical reports. So you have, he was given an example. You know, he had in his work, obviously, the bad guys, the defense attorneys, hire doctors, and under the federal rules, the doctors have to issue a report with their findings on while the plaintiff, wasn't injured or is faking it. And he would feed those reports into Claude, and then Claude would come up with a series of cross-examination questions when he was deposing these doctors. So he ran a whole scenario how he did, and he just did it live, just did it right on the spot. And it came up with some brilliant stuff. Analyzing regulatory requirements. We do that. So I've used it to type in the ERISA, I fed in the ERISA regulations. And then I fed in a defendant's answer to our complaint. I fed in our complaint, I fed in the defendant's answer to our complaint, and then I fed in the regulatory requirements. And I basically said, what is this bullshit that the defense attorney just filed? And he gave me a whole list of inconsistencies where the answer was inconsistent with what the regulatory requirements are. So, again, just playing with it, but it was good stuff. And, you just got to get creative with that.
I like Claude way better than I like ChatGPT. It's much, I don't use it as extensively as you do, but I do think that, for example, I fed in preparation for this podcast, I fed Claude my same exact prompt that I fed to ChatGPT about my stalled metabolism or whatever. And it just gave me a very, no sycophant stuff at all.
It doesn't kiss your ass. Claude does not kiss your ass.
It was just very much like, you might want to look into these things. No questions asked about do you want some suggestions on doctors in the area or whatever it was going to ask? It just was, nope. These are the things you need to consider. So
the Lanier quote here is, Claude is the associate who always catches the footnote you missed. It's just a detail-oriented taskmaster.
Yep. I really like Claude.
Okay. So now we're going to go out on Gemini. Have you used Gemini?
I have not.
So, all right. So now we're both talking about stuff that we have not had any experience in. So we're just basically quoting back what Lanier said.
Well, because
I don't know.
It's the Google AI
yeah.
platform.
Which in and of itself is a little suspicious, because the problem there is that Google is so in love with their search engine, and and they are the world's taskmaster when it comes to collecting data. So I kind of wonder, anytime if you feed it into Gemini, you're feeding it into the Google machine, and do you really want to be feeding your information into Google for the world to see? This is my hesitancy right now, just without knowing anything about the platform. And this just could be my paranoia coming out. But
I also think that that's probably one of its greatest.
that is probably one of its strengths as well. Is
because
that
leverages the power of Google.
it does leverage the power of Google. And this is exactly what Lanier said. He says the strengths are current events and regulatory updates. It works seamlessly with Google Workspace integrations, Docs, Drive, Gmail. Multimodal analysis, PDF, scan records, images, and vendors. It can look at all of that. And I get it. I mean, in the world before AI, we didn't AI things. We Googled things, So you leveraging the power of AI plus the power of Google, in one fell swoop. I can see where there could be some serious advantages there. I think basically, the layer said the limitations on it, though, are it's just less reliable for deep reasoning. And I can see why. I mean, you go to Google and you get all kind of randomness on any search, and I think that's probably the same. It's probably having the same issue here. You're just getting a lot of random information, and it's having a hard time synthesizing it because it's, quite frankly, drawing from too much. I'm just guessing here, but it's what I would think. Oh, and privacy concerns with Google's data practices. That's always been a concern, is the way Google just soaks up all the information and then just spits it out without regard to, its serious privacy. So, Robert Rose thinks the same way.
Well, I mean, so comparing the two, so Claude at some point, I think I had asked it for, I don't know if I was preparing for the marketing director interviews, but I was like, give me top 10 or the most recent news stories on PPC. And it said, well, I can't give you anything beyond X date because it had only fed up. The information it was pulling from was like 10 months ago or something. I don't know if that was a limitation of our subscription, but obviously Google would not have that limitation.
Right. I think Google would have more real-time information.
Yeah. So I think depending again on your concerns and what you're doing, it might be, just better for that type of thing.
So the Lanier's quote is, Gemini is like the associate who's always has today's newspaper on their desk. It's just more current events. It's just closer to that. So finally, he talked about some specialized legal AI tools. You have Westlaw Edge, you have Lexis plus AI. If you're going to do any serious legal writing, legal research with accurate citations that are not hallucinated from, obviously, I think it's best if you stick within the Westlaw Lexis environment and the AI tools that they have, because it's a closed system. It's not going to go outside of the database that Westlaw/Lexis already has. You mentioned Harvey AI. Have you ever heard of Harvey AI?
I have not. I'm surprised he didn't mention CoCounsel, which is, of course, what we use at this firm.
I kind of thought the same thing. CoCounsel was, in my opinion, is the fourth one out there.
Well, Westlaw Edge is not necessarily, they've just recently done an update. So it could be their newest AI platform. I think they call it Westlaw Precision, actually. But CoCounsel is what we use at the firm. So far, pretty happy with it. Mostly, we do a lot of our disability insurance stuff on that particular platform.
Right. Most of what I would call the real legal work we do on the Westlaw version of AI. Just because we've been Westlaw my entire legal career. Sorry, Lexis, no offense. But I still need head notes.
Yeah.
I still need the head notes. So, I think Lanier's tip is for general AI drafting, legal specific type stuff, you need authoritative research. So you need to just stick in the Westlaw Lexis realm. Ethical and practical concerns here. I know you've looked at this. Tell me, what do you think?
I'm not going to tell you that some of your stories right now are making me cringe and I'm like, did we really just say that on a podcast? So
we are nothing but truth and openness on this podcast.
That's true. And what the named managing partner does is not it's absolutely not what we allow.
Never client information in AI. Never have we ever done that. So.
Right. But also because of that, we have just taken a much more restrictive view from everything on our employee handbook, which has an AI specific policy, to just being very cautious in our approach to adopting an AI software for all the reasons we've discussed in other podcasts. But it's now our employee handbook has the AI policy, as I've mentioned, because we don't want people to use. I'd say, for some of the stuff, case status actually has an AI part of their response in their chat box. So it suggests you have been denied. It will actually make this more nice or make this more professional. We regret to inform you that your application for disability benefits has been denied. And then it makes it real easy for you to do that type of stuff in a closed environment. And you're not allowing people or your employees to use ChatGPT just because of the risks. It's just too open. And even, I think OpenAI, his CEO just did, was it Sam Altman? He just did an interview fairly recently where he warned that a lot of people are putting all kinds of sensitive information into ChatGPT, treating it like a therapist, and it's just not. It obviously does not have the same legal privileges as that of a therapist or a doctor or a lawyer. And so we take the same approach with our clients' information in that we don't even allow them to use it for drafting purposes.
So the general rule of thumb, never put client identifiers into free AI tools. Never do that.
And I would say even the behind the page versions, we don't allow that for our team members, or even as a general practice. We do not allow people to put things. I know that there's conflicting information out there, like Lanier himself obviously does it, but we don't do that here at the firm.
We don't. Lanier, these are Lanier's tips here. So never put client identifiers in free AI tools. Consider enterprise versions for client-sensitive work. Enterprise versions are the paid versions that you can wall off. I'm telling what Lanier says. I'm not saying what we do.
No, I'm saying that there is an enterprise version of Claude. We have the team subscription, and then there's a whole nother subscription called Enterprise, which according to Claude's website says might offer, because there's an enterprise and a government subscription. So they think that they can actually I guess you get more protection if you purchase one of those subscriptions.
Right. Obviously, if you're using it for legal, obviously always verify your citations. Like the good old days when I was in law school 35 years ago, when we used to have the blue books and the green books and all that fun stuff and Shepherds, all these things that you used to do. I'm sure you still do that kind of stuff.
We can shepherdize now, but not through.
Did you ever learn to shepherdize using the paper books?
No, sir.
Okay, I did.
Good on you.
Good on me. Back in the days when we chiseled things on stone and rode dinosaurs to law school every day.
Uphill both ways. So I do also encourage that you put some type of an AI policy. That was one of our big takeaways from our PILMA meeting or summit this past May, is develop an AI policy, whatever that says. And it was just real simple. I think I probably even used AI to draft our AI policy.
So I will say, I was just adding on this, I've tried to use, there was a specific AI tool that is supposed to specialize in drafting PowerPoints. And I've even forgot what it's called. Beautiful AI. And I tried that, and I even paid for an enhanced version of it. And I could never get it to work right. It gave me the same version of the slide over and over and over again. And that was so disappointing to me, because that's really where, me spending most of my time marketing the firm, and a lot of what we do is putting together a lot of PowerPoints, is like, gee, wouldn't it be great to have a tool that could really do that well? And I haven't used it in a few months, so I'm hoping, like everything else, is getting better. But that was one area where I was sorely disappointed in the output.
So in preparing for this podcast, I looked at Claude's, actually it's X page. I was going to say Twitter, but it's X page. And so they've actually now, you can create PowerPoints through documents that you upload. It's a really cool thing on its feed. Right. So really look at that 1-minute video on there, guys. Let us know what you think. But Claude can now create PowerPoints.
All right, so you're going to have to teach me how to do that, because I have 10 PowerPoints that I need to put together.
It was really cool.
All right. So when we come back, Diane and I are going to share our 5 action steps going forward using AI, the Lanier way.
This is Marc Whitehead, lawyer, entrepreneur, and business coach. Thanks for listening to the Successful Barrister podcast. If we've stirred your juices, hit me up with an email at mark@markwhitehead.com. Remember, Mark is spelled with a C. And get on the Successful Barrister newsletter mailing list. Even better, let's set up a call. I'd love to talk to you about working together, talk shop, or just shooting the breeze.
All right, and we're back. All right, Diana, so we're going to go with our 5 action steps going forward. Basically, what we have gleaned and what we would recommend going forward. I'm gonna go with the premise that our listeners know a little bit about AI, but are probably not well-versed in AI. If you were well-versed in AI, I don't know what you did wasting your time listening to this, because you probably already knew everything we had to say anyway.
But we thank you for listening.
But we do thank you for listening, and please support our sponsor. So I will start with action step number 1, train an AI champion in your firm, basically a designated staff person to learn it and to teach it. Now, it might be you, but it might not be. It might be somebody else within the firm, but have one designated champion, one designated hitter within your firm that's looking at all the AI options out there. Now, we didn't even talk about the vendors out there that are selling AI products like Supio and Foundation AI and all these other vendors that we deal with, which are basically using AI, but with their own creative overlay over the top. We were just talking about more of the publicly available commercial AI products, but you want one designated hitter within the firm that's really, their job is to learn this stuff and to be able to teach it to the rest of the office. That's would be my first recommendation.
Yeah, I like it. As always, when you have a champion, it's a good place to start. So my tip go forward, or one of my action steps going forward would be just to kind of play with both of them at the same time. In other words, feed the exact same prompt into both, call it ChatGPT and Claude, just so you can get a better feel for each of the platforms and the type of result that you're going to get, so that you can determine on your own what are the strengths and the weaknesses for each of the platforms, because you kind of need that real time kind of comparison to get that intuitive feel. Okay, well, this is a ChatGPT question. I need 10 quotes from this book so that I can be first for this. Whether I need to do this, analyze this Excel spreadsheet for me. So I would say start with both of them kind of side by side. There is something, I haven't played with it, but it's called you.com, you.com, and it allows you to switch between multiple AI models in the same app. So if you allow it to, for example, if it says, you want to use ChatGPT, you kind of from your drop down, select ChatGPT for it. And then at some point you want to maybe use it to go to Claude for more in-depth, presentation type stuff maybe, or analysis. So you switch over and say, okay, now act like a blank and do it using Claude AI. So it's another tool out there, you.com, that allows you to switch between multiple models in an easy app.
So my tip number 3 in our series here is use AI for drafting, but not for final drafts. Lawyers got to review everything. My methodology, like I said, I like to talk to things because I can talk faster and get things out of my head faster verbally than if I'm sitting there having to type them, especially with my clumsy thumbs. I have 10 thumbs, by the way. Did you know that? It's a genetic deformity that I have. So okay. when I get at a typewriter, you just hear banging because it's just thumbs banging. I just banged on the table. See?
Yeah,
I know. See, now I've just screwed up the audio of the podcast. So I will just simply talk. I'll talk into it and I'll verbally vomit what I want. But then I don't ask it to give me, an article or a finished product. I say, give me an outline, and I might give it some parameters. Give me a detailed outline with at least 3 bullet points per topic and 2 bullet points per subtopic. And I'll just start verbally developing an outline for whatever it is I'm trying to create. Frequently, I'm writing an article over something. And then in the middle of it, I can see a hole in it. And I'll say, wait a minute, we need, under part 3, we need a subpart 3 or a subpart 4 or a whatever. Add this to it. And you can ask it questions like, okay, I need a little bit of research on subtopic 4, okay? And I'll ask it some questions, and it'll come back with an answer. I'm like, okay, that answer is a good answer. Can you include that into our outline? And I'll just keep working with the outline until I get the outline more and more detailed and more fleshed out, or I'll tell it, I'll like swap sections 2 and 3, and we'll just work through it until we get a very detailed outline. And then I'll ask it to write the article, but I only ask it to write one little section at a time because I want to see where it goes. Like, we'll write section 1. And all right, that worked. Now write section 2. All right, I didn't like section 2. Let's change this up a little bit, and so forth. You just take it in little bite-sized steps, and the next thing you go, you have a complete draft of an article. Now you've got to put the human touch to it, and you got to go back and you got to make it your own and fix it, and not make it sound like a damn machine. But that's how I like to use it.
So my tip number 4 would be to develop firm-wide AI policies. Obviously, as the COO, I'm going to say that. Start with your employee handbook, or just make sure there's an AI policy somewhere if you don't put in your AI policy or in your employee handbook. Also, one of the consultants we had in recently suggested this, and we're going to talk about this soon, but add an AI clause to your contract with your clients, letting them be aware that you are using AI tools
and they
in
consent
their case,
to it.
Exactly. And that you're taking every legal precaution to make sure that their data is safe and secure, however you want to draft it, but just make sure it's in your policies and that people are actually adhering to them.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And the reality is clients don't care. I think most smart clients actually sort of expect it these days. So I can't imagine anybody would question it. And if they did question it, well, it's good to have a ready answer. Like, our competitors are using it. Don't you want to be up to snuff? Don't you want your lawyer to be practicing with the same tools that your opponent is practicing with? So that'd be a hell of an answer if I'd give if anybody had questioned me about it. All right, finally, number 5, measure your return on your investment. And not your necessarily investment in money, because quite frankly, these tools are all relatively cheap, $20 a month, $30 a month for your basic, paid versions. I haven't looked at the enterprise cost yet. I mean, couldn't be that much.
They won't, for Claude, they won't quote it on the website. You need to talk to someone.
Okay. I want to say that the enterprise version for ChatGPT was something like a couple of $100 a month and I don't even know what that gets you. I didn't buy it, but the point is, I'm talking more about your return on your investment of your time, because your time is your most valuable asset. So, how much time are you saving? Track that. How much time are your employees saving? Are your cases being prepped faster? Are you improving your results? Look at those things and start looking at the bottlenecks in your firm and see if there's a way that AI can help you with your bottlenecks. One of our bottlenecks is medical record summaries, okay? Now, we're not feeding our clients' medical records into OpenAI or anything, but there are closed vendors out there who, sell basically medical record summary services using AI features that, we're exploring. Haven't quite taken that leap yet, but, these are the types of things that we're doing. We're looking at where are the choke points, where are the bottlenecks within the firm, and is there a way that AI could possibly help? We're using Foundation AI to basically sort our mail. That was a bottleneck. So there are different ways that you can look at your firm and to see where AI might come in and save you some time and save you some money. All right. With that, any closing comments, Diana?
No, I mean, I don't think I'm going to be playing on Gemini anytime soon, but I really do like Claude. It's a good one, and I recommend that users try it. Let us know what you think.
I know I've been playing with Claude a lot as sort of in thought experiments, just talking to it and telling Claude to assume certain personas. As a matter of fact, I think we're going to do a podcast on that probably in a month or two. I will let you know what my results were after I've been playing with this for a while. Claude is where Lanier landed. It's his favorite. And if it's good enough for him, he's getting multi-billion-dollar verdicts. It's good enough for me. So that's the way I'm looking at it. All right, with that, I'm getting the high sign that we are out of time. So I want to thank everybody. Thank you for listening to the Successful Barrister podcast, where legal legends are made. I'm Mark.
And I'm Diana.
And together we're the dynamic duo of law. So remember to rate and review us wherever you get your podcast. And if you've enjoyed this podcast, remember to forward it to your friends. Hit that little forward button on your phone with the little Successful Barrister icon and shoot it over to your friend. I sent it over to a friend today. I just had a friend this morning text me from Canada.
Wow.
Who said he was listening to our podcast and he loved the banter between you and I.
Oh my gosh.
So
y'all encourage him too much.
I
with
know.
that.
So this is why I give you as much shit as I do on the podcast, because people love it.
Thank you,
It's
listeners.
it's all about ratings. It's all about ratings. All right. So with that digression, remember to visit us at successfulbarrister.com. And don't forget to visit our sponsor, Marc Whitehead Associates, a national disability law firm, at disabilitydenials.com. And with that, we're out of here.
Bye.